The great hall of the Galactic Union fell silent. 500 representatives from across the stars sat frozen in their seats. On the main screen, another world vanished in a cloud of darkness. The Void Swarm had claimed its 7th major planet this month. Lyra Blackwood gripped the edges of her podium. Her pale blue skin, dotted with spots that looked like stars, had lost its usual glow. As ambassador of the Lumari people, she had seen 300 years of peace. Now she watched as everything fell apart. "We have lost contact with Nebulon 5, said a voice from the speakers. "All 4 billion citizens are presumed dead." Whispers filled the room. Some representatives wept openly. Others argued in hushed voices. The Void Swarm had appeared 6 months ago from the darkest regions of space. Nothing stopped it. Not weapons, not shields, not even the sacrifice of entire worlds to slow it down. Elder Zorn, the oldest member of the council, raised his hand for silence. His species had evolved beyond physical bodies thousands of years ago. He existed as a shimmer of light inside a floating metal sphere. "We have tried everything in our power," he said. His voice sounded tired, something Lyra had never heard before from an elder. "Our most advanced weapons have failed. Our greatest minds see no solution. The swarm adapts to every strategy." Lyra looked around the room. These were the most advanced species in the galaxy. For thousands of years, they had solved their problems with technology and diplomacy. Violence was a distant memory for most. War was something they studied in history lessons. But the Void Swarm didn't negotiate. It didn't want anything except to consume all life. "There is one option we haven't considered," Lyra said quietly. The room turned to look at her. As one of the younger ambassadors, she rarely spoke at these meetings. "We could ask the humans for help." The silence that followed was different. It wasn't shock at the loss of another world. It was pure horror at what she had suggested. "The humans?" Elder Zorn's sphere pulsed red with alarm. "You cannot be serious, Ambassador Blackwood." "I am completely serious," Lyra said, standing taller. "We face extinction. The humans might be our only hope." A representative from the Voltar Confederation stood up. His scaled skin reflected the blue light of the hall. "The humans are quarantined for a reason, Ambassador. Have you read the reports from the first contact missions?" "I have," Lyra replied. "All of them." The reports painted a frightening picture. Humans were unpredictable. They responded to peaceful gestures with suspicion. They had wars over resources, ideas, and sometimes for no clear reason at all. Their entertainment celebrated violence. Their history was soaked in blood. The Galactic Union had discovered Earth 300 years ago. After several disastrous attempts at contact, they placed warning beacons around the solar system and declared it forbidden territory. "The humans fight wars for sport," said another representative. "They kill their own kind over tiny differences. What makes you think they would help us?" Lyra activated her datapad. A map of the galaxy appeared above the center of the hall. Red dots showed the path of the Void Swarm. Its course was clear. "Earth is directly in the swarm's path," she said. "They will be consumed like everyone else unless we warn them. And if anyone can fight this enemy, it might be the species that never stopped fighting itself." Arguments broke out across the hall. Some representatives shouted that she was insane. Others wondered if she might be right. Elder Zorn's sphere hovered silently, considering. "The humans are dangerous," said a small insect-like representative. "But the Void Swarm is worse. At least humans can be reasoned with sometimes." "Exactly," Lyra said. "We've spent thousands of years evolving beyond violence. We chose peace and prosperity. The humans chose a different path. They embraced conflict and turned it into an art form. We need that now." Elder Zorn moved to the center of the hall. Everyone fell silent. "The council cannot approve this," he said finally. "Contact with humans is forbidden by our oldest laws. It would require a full vote of all members, and we don't have time for that." Lyra's shoulders dropped. She had expected this answer. "However," Elder Zorn continued, "we cannot stop an individual from taking action on their own. Such an individual would be removed from the council and face punishment if they survived. But we would listen to what they discovered." The elder was giving her a path. Not permission, but a possibility. That night, Lyra packed a small bag in her quarters. Her aide, a young Lumari named Pell, watched with worried eyes. "You're really going to Earth?" he asked. "Someone has to," Lyra said, checking the small translator device she had modified. It contained all known human languages. "The swarm will reach their solar system in less than 30 days. They deserve a warning at least. The humans might kill you on sight, Pell said. You've read the reports, Lyra nodded. I have. But do you know what fascinates me most about humans? They're unpredictable. The reports say they're violent and dangerous, but they also say humans have saved enemies from drowning. They've run into burning buildings to rescue strangers. They've sacrificed themselves for ideas. She closed her bag. We need unpredictable right now. The swarm adapts to patterns. Humans don't seem to follow any. 3 hours later, Lyra's small ship broke away from the Union station. As an ambassador, she had access to fast, unmarked vessels for diplomatic missions. This wasn't an approved mission, but her code still worked. As stars streaked past her view screen, Lyra reviewed Earth's files one more time. Humans had advanced quickly since the Union placed the quarantine. They had primitive space travel now. Their weapons had grown more deadly. Their cultures had changed in ways the limited observation couldn't fully track. The ship's computer spoke in a calm voice. Course set for Sol system. Warning, destination is under galactic quarantine. Please confirm override. Lyra took a deep breath. Once she did this, there was no going back. Confirm override, she said. Maximum speed. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. Ahead lay Earth. Behind her, the void swarm consumed another star system. Lyra could only hope that the most dangerous species in the galaxy would turn out to be its savior. Rain pounded against Lyra's ship as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Warning lights flashed across her control panel. Something was wrong. The ship shook violently as it dropped through dark storm clouds. Warning. Detection systems active in this sector. The ship's computer announced. Earth defense networks tracking this vessel. Lyra gripped her seat. The Union's reports had mentioned primitive radar systems. They hadn't mentioned anything capable of disrupting her ship's controls. Through the view screen, she saw lights cutting through the clouds. Small aircraft with blinking red and green markers surrounded her ship. They were fast and maneuverable, keeping pace even as her vessel dropped toward the surface. Unidentified aircraft, you have entered restricted airspace. A voice crackled through her communication system. Identify yourself immediately or we will be forced to take defensive action. The translator in her ear worked perfectly, converting the human language to one she understood. Lyra reached for the communication panel, but another violent shake knocked her hand away. The ship was failing. I come in peace, she managed to broadcast. My ship is damaged. I need to land. There was a pause then. Maintain current descent path. You will be escorted to a secure location. But Lyra's ship wasn't responding to controls anymore. The damage was worse than she thought. The craft spun wildly, breaking away from the human escorts. She glimpsed dark forests below, then a clearing. The ship plummeted toward it. The impact came hard and fast. Lyra's safety field activated, surrounding her in a protective bubble as the ship tore through trees and dug into soft earth. Metal screamed against stone. Sparks showered from broken circuits. When the ship finally stopped moving, Lyra hung upside down in her seat, the safety field flickering around her. Emergency beacon activated, the computer said, its voice distorted. Life support failing. Recommend immediate evacuation. Lyra released her harness and dropped to what used to be the ceiling of the cockpit. Pain shot through her leg. She ignored it, gathering her translator and data pad. The ship's door was jammed. She pressed her palm against the emergency release and it blew outward with a hiss of escaping air. Cold rain hit her face as she stumbled outside. The air was richer in oxygen than she was used to, making her feel lightheaded. She could see lights in the distance, the human aircraft circling, searching for her crash site. Lyra limped away from the wreckage, trying to assess her surroundings. The trees were tall with green needles instead of leaves. The ground was covered in soft plant matter that squished under her feet. Everything smelled different, sharp, alive, wild. A noise made her turn. A human stood at the edge of the clearing, pointing a small light and what Lyra recognized as a weapon at her. The human wore dark clothing with markings on the chest and shoulders. A head covering partially protected them from the rain. In the beam of light, Lyra could see the human had dark skin and facial features that matched the female designation in her studies. Don't move, the human said firmly. Lyra raised her hands slowly. Remembering this was a universal gesture of surrender among humans. I am not here to harm anyone, Lyra said, her translator converting her words to the human's language. I come with an urgent warning. The human's eyes widened at hearing their own language. The weapon didn't waver. Commander Foster to base, the human spoke into a device on her shoulder. I've made contact with the pilot. Humanoid, appears female, speaks English through some kind of device. Requesting backup and containment team. A voice answered, but Lyra couldn't hear it clearly over the rain. Understood, the human named Foster replied. She looked back at Lyra. More people are coming. Stay where you are. Lyra nodded, but then her injured leg gave out. She fell to her knees in the mud. The human hesitated, then stepped closer, keeping the weapon raised. Are you injured? Yes, Lyra said. My ship's landing was not optimal. Despite the situation, the human's mouth curved slightly upward. A smile, Lyra recalled from her studies, a sign of amusement or goodwill. That's one way to put it, Foster said. You tore through 3 miles of protected forest. I apologize for the damage, Lyra said. The human studied her with intense eyes. What are you? I am Lyra Blackwood, ambassador of the Lumari people and representative to the Galactic Union. The human's expression didn't change, but her grip on the weapon tightened. There's a Galactic Union? Yes, Lyra said. Your world has been aware of it for generations. Now the human looked confused. No, we haven't. This was unexpected. The Union had detected government awareness of alien contact. There had been crashed ships, captured scouts, enough for humans to know they weren't alone in the universe. Your governments have known about extraterrestrial life for centuries, Lyra explained. The Galactic Union placed warning beacons around your solar system 300 years ago. We've observed your development from a distance. Foster's eyes narrowed. Why warn people away from Earth? Lyra realized her mistake too late. She had revealed too much too quickly. To protect the galaxy from you, she said simply. Deciding honesty was best. Your species was deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous. You should have killed me immediately, Lyra added, testing the human's reaction. That's what we would have done. The human's expression hardened, but she lowered her weapon slightly. Well, we're not you. More lights appeared through the trees. The sound of engines and voices grew louder. My people are coming, Foster said. I suggest you cooperate. I can't guarantee your safety otherwise. Lyra nodded. I will cooperate fully. But you must listen to me. There is something coming. Something worse than anything your people have faced before. That's why I broke the quarantine to come here. Before Foster could respond, more humans emerged from the trees. They wore different uniforms and carried larger weapons. Some rolled equipment that Lyra didn't recognize. They surrounded her quickly, lights blinding her from all directions. One of them approached Foster. Commander, you need to step back. Containment protocol is in effect. She's injured and cooperating, Foster replied. And she says she has an urgent warning. That's not your call, Commander. Please step aside. Foster hesitated, then nodded to Lyra. Remember what I said. Cooperate. The other humans moved in with their equipment. One held up a device that scanned Lyra from head to toe. Another approached with restraints. No signs of biological hazards, one reported. Physical structure similar to humanoid but significant internal differences. They placed the restraints on Lyra's wrists. They were primitive. Simple metal circles connected by a chain, but effective. Take her to Site 7, ordered a human with more markings on their uniform. Full containment, highest security. No communication with anyone outside the cleared list. As they led Lyra toward a waiting vehicle, she looked back at her crashed ship. Foster was standing beside it, looking at the alien writing on its side. Their eyes met briefly before Lyra was placed inside the vehicle. The door closed with a heavy thud. Through a small window, Lyra watched the rainy forest disappear as they drove away. She had made it to Earth. The humans hadn't killed her immediately, which was a good sign, but would they listen? The void swarm was coming, and even now she couldn't be sure if she'd found allies or simply another species for it to consume. In the darkness of the human vehicle, Lyra closed her eyes. 29 days remained before the swarm reached Earth's solar system. She had to make these dangerous humans understand before it was too late. Lyra sat in a plain room with white walls. A metal table was bolted to the floor in front of her. Her restraints had been removed, but she knew the room was secured. She had been here for 3 days, answering endless questions from different humans. They were cautious but not cruel. They provided food and water compatible with her biology, which surprised her. They must have encountered alien life before. The door opened and Commander Foster walked in. She wore a clean uniform now with her dark hair pulled back tightly. Another woman followed her, older with silver hair and a face marked with scars that ran from her right eye down to her jaw. This new woman wore a uniform with many symbols that Lyra recognized as signs of high rank. Ambassador Blackwood, Foster said formally. This is Admiral Catherine Winters, commander of the North American Defense Fleet. Lyra stood and bowed slightly. A gesture she had learned was respectful among humans. Admiral Winters, thank you for meeting with me. The Admiral studied Lyra with cold eyes. Sit down. Both women took seats across from Lyra. The Admiral placed a folder on the table between them. I've reviewed your statements, Winters said. About this Galactic Union. About Earth being quarantined. About some threat called the Void Swarm. Her tone made it clear she wasn't sure whether to believe any of it. Everything I've told your people is true, Lyra said. The Void Swarm has destroyed 7 major worlds in the past month alone. Billions of lives lost. It adapts to every weapon and strategy we use against it. The Union is falling apart. And you came here for help? Admiral Winters raised an eyebrow. To a planet your people have kept isolated for centuries. To a species you consider too dangerous to interact with? Lyra met the Admiral's gaze. Yes, because you are dangerous. That's exactly what we need now. Foster leaned forward. You mentioned that the swarm will reach our solar system in less than a month. How can we verify this? Your deep space monitoring stations should be detecting unusual readings already, Lyra said. Energy distortions at the edge of your solar system. Unusual radiation patterns. Stars going dark. The two women exchanged looks. Admiral Winters nodded slightly and Foster tapped something on a small device she carried. Lyra realized they were confirming her information. Let's say we believe you, the Admiral said after a moment. What exactly is this Void Swarm? Lyra took a deep breath. We don't know its origin. Some believe it evolved in the space between galaxies. Others think it's a weapon created by a long-dead civilization. What we do know is that it consumes everything. Planets, stars, even the space between them. It leaves nothing but emptiness. And how does it attack? Foster asked. It sends scouts first, small pieces of itself that study defenses and weaknesses. Then comes the main body, a massive. The closest word in your language would be particles. They look like black dust, but each particle is alive and connected to the whole. They break down matter at the atomic level, converting it to energy the swarm uses to grow. Admiral Winters frowned. If it's just particles, why not use nuclear weapons? Extreme heat? We've tried, Lyra said. The swarm adapts. After the first nuclear strike, it developed a way to absorb the radiation. When we used energy weapons, it learned to redirect the power back at us. It learns from every attack. The room fell silent. Foster was taking notes on her device while Admiral Winters stared at Lyra with an unreadable expression. Finally, the Admiral spoke again. You said your people quarantined Earth because we're dangerous. Explain that. Lyra chose her words carefully. The Galactic Union formed thousands of years ago. Member species agreed to peaceful cooperation. War became obsolete. Violence became a sign of primitive development. When we discovered Earth 300 years ago, your species was still actively engaged in warfare. Your entertainment celebrated violence. Your children played games simulating combat. Even your sports involved physical domination. It was disturbing to Union observers. First contact attempts went poorly. Several research teams were captured or killed. The Union decided Earth wasn't ready for integration and placed warning beacons around your solar system. The quarantine was meant to be temporary, but your behavioral patterns never changed enough to justify lifting it. Admiral Winters' face remained neutral, but Lyra noticed her hands had tightened into fists. So you judged us too violent and left us alone, the Admiral said flatly. And now you want our help because we're violent. I want your help because you think differently, Lyra corrected. The Union species evolved beyond conflict. We lost something in the process, the ability to fight an enemy that can't be reasoned with. Your history is full of stories about overcoming impossible odds through sheer determination and unconventional thinking. Foster looked up from her device. You've studied our history? As much as was available from observation, Lyra said. Your world wars, your Cold War, the tactics you developed, the technologies you created under pressure. No Union species would think the way humans do in a crisis. Admiral Winters stood suddenly. Come with me. Both of you. They led Lyra through secure corridors, passing rooms filled with technology and humans working urgently. Nobody seemed surprised to see an alien walking among them. They reached a large circular room with screens covering the walls. In the center stood a holographic display of Earth's solar system. "This is our strategic command center," Admiral Winters explained. "Show her, Lieutenant." A young man tapped on a control panel and the display zoomed out to show the outer edge of the solar system. There, just beyond Pluto's orbit, was a dark area where stars seemed to be missing. "We detected this 3 weeks ago," Admiral Winters said. "At first we thought it was an instrument error. Then we lost contact with our deep space probes in that sector." Lyra felt her heart sink. "It's already here. The scouts have arrived." "We've been tracking unusual phenomena for decades," Foster added. "Unexplained ship disappearances. Strange readings from our space telescopes. We thought it might be related to the warning beacons you mentioned." "You knew about those?" Lyra asked, surprised. Admiral Winters smiled without humor. "We've known we're not alone for a very long time, Ambassador. We've recovered crashed alien ships, captured scouts, intercepted transmissions. We just couldn't break your quarantine to make formal contact." She gestured to the room around them. "Why do you think we built all this? We've been preparing for either peaceful contact or invasion for generations." Lyra looked around with new understanding. The humans hadn't been isolated at all. They had been watching, learning, preparing. "The swarm isn't an invasion," she said quietly. "It's extinction. Total and complete." Admiral Winters nodded to another officer who brought up a new display. It showed a massive underground facility filled with spacecraft unlike anything Lyra had seen in the Union. The designs were aggressive, bristling with weapons. "This is just one of our shipyards," the Admiral said. "We have others around the planet. We've been building a defense fleet for 200 years, using technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships and our own innovations." Lyra stared at the ships in amazement. "The Union has no idea." "That was the point," Foster said. "Your people thought they were containing a primitive, violent species. We let you believe that while we prepared." Admiral Winters turned to face Lyra directly. "Now, Ambassador Blackwood, tell us everything you know about this void swarm. How it moves, how it attacks, what's worked against it even temporarily. Leave nothing out." Lyra felt something she hadn't felt since leaving the Union. Hope. "It communicates through quantum entanglement," she began. "Each particle is connected to every other, no matter the distance. That's why it adapts so quickly. What one part learns, the entire swarm knows instantly." As she spoke, officers around the room took notes, created simulations, and sent messages to other facilities around the world. Humans moved with urgency but not panic. They were organizing, planning, preparing for war. "One more question," Admiral Winters said when Lyra finished her explanation. "Does the rest of the Galactic Union know you're here?" Lyra shook her head. "No, contact with Earth is forbidden. I came alone, against orders." The Admiral exchanged a look with Commander Foster. "Good," Winters said. "Then we have the element of surprise. Not just against the swarm, but against your Union, too." "What do you mean?" Lyra asked. Admiral Winters' scarred face hardened. "Your people abandoned us, judged us, and left us to die. After we deal with this void swarm, we're going to have a long conversation with the Galactic Union about Earth's place in the galaxy." For the first time, Lyra understood why the Union had feared humans. There was something in the Admiral's eyes that no Union species possessed anymore. A dangerous, uncompromising will to survive, no matter the cost. And right now, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Commander Diane Foster led Lyra through a massive underground complex. They had traveled from the command center by a high-speed transport that descended deep beneath the Earth's surface. Lyra had been surprised at how extensive the human preparations were. This facility alone stretched for miles in every direction. "This is one of our primary research and development centers," Diane explained as they walked. "We call it the Vault. It's where we study and adapt alien technology." Workers in lab coats and military uniforms moved purposefully through the corridors. Some stopped to stare at Lyra, but most simply nodded respectfully and continued their tasks. The humans were surprisingly calm about having an alien in their midst. "Your people seem very accustomed to extraterrestrial life," Lyra observed. Diane smiled slightly. "We've had more contact than your Union realizes. Not all aliens respect the quarantine. We've had visitors over the years. They passed through heavy security doors into a vast chamber filled with technology. Some of it Lyra recognized from various Union worlds. Other devices were completely unfamiliar. Human innovations, she realized. "I'm taking you to meet our lead weapons designer," Diane said. "She's been working on something that might help against the swarm." In the center of the chamber, a small woman with dark hair pulled into a messy bun was arguing with a group of technicians. She gestured animatedly at a complex device on the workbench in front of her. Energy pulsed within transparent tubes, flowing in patterns that seemed to defy physics. "That's not going to work if you keep thinking about particle flow in terms of standard models," the woman was saying. "This isn't traditional physics. We're manipulating the uncertainty principle itself." She turned as Diane and Lyra approached. Her eyes widened at the sight of Lyra, then narrowed with interest. "Ambassador Blackwood, this is Dr. Samantha Martinez," Diane said. "Sam, this is our guest from the Galactic Union." "Call me Sam," the woman said, extending her hand. Lyra had learned this greeting ritual and carefully shook Sam's hand. "So you're the one who broke through the quarantine to warn us." "Brave move. Necessary," Lyra replied. "What are you working on, Dr. Martinez?" Sam grinned. "Something your union would probably have outlawed centuries ago." She gestured to the device. "We call it a quantum destabilizer. It targets the underlying principles that govern particle behavior." Lyra stepped closer to examine the technology. What she saw made her hearts race. "This manipulates reality at the quantum level. It would be considered extremely dangerous by Union standards." "Exactly," Sam said proudly. "From what we understand, the void swarm functions through quantum entanglement, all parts connected instantaneously regardless of distance. What if we could disrupt that connection by introducing true randomness into its system?" The concept was brilliant and terrifying. Union scientists had theorized similar weapons but abandoned the research as too risky. Quantum manipulation could have unintended consequences that rippled across reality. "You understand the risks?" Lyra asked. Sam nodded, her expression turning serious. "We're not playing around here. We know this technology could backfire catastrophically, but facing extinction changes the risk calculation." "Sam is the best mind we have," Diane added. "She's been studying alien technology since she was a teenager." "My parents were both researchers here," Sam explained. "I grew up surrounded by technology most humans don't even know exists. My specialty is weapons that work outside conventional physics." She led them to a secured area at the back of the lab. Inside was Lyra's damaged ship, partially dismantled and connected to human equipment. "Hope you don't mind," Sam said, noticing Lyra's surprise. "Your ship's drive system uses principles similar to what we've been developing. The quantum entanglement communication array is particularly interesting." "You understand how it works?" Lyra asked, impressed despite herself. "Enough to modify it," Sam replied. She activated a display showing schematics of Lyra's ship merged with human technology. "I think we can use your ship's quantum array to deliver our destabilizer directly into the heart of the swarm." Diane turned to Lyra. "We need your help. Your knowledge of the swarm combined with Sam's weapon could give us a fighting chance." Lyra studied the schematics. The humans had taken her elegant ship and transformed it into something aggressive and unpredictable, much like themselves. Where Union design favored harmony and balance, the human modifications embraced chaos and raw power. "This breaks at least a dozen Union technology treaties," Lyra said. "If I help you, I can never return home." "Do you have a home to return to if the swarm wins?" Sam asked quietly. The question hung in the air between them. Lyra thought of her world, her people, all the civilizations of the Union facing extinction. She had already committed to this path when she broke quarantine. "Tell me what you need," she said finally. For the next week, Lyra worked alongside Sam and her team. They merged Union quantum technology with human innovations, creating something neither civilization could have built alone. The modified ship took shape, smaller, faster, and carrying a weapon that could potentially unravel the very fabric of the swarm. Admiral Winters visited regularly, bringing updates from the defensive front. The Void Swarm's scouts had penetrated deeper into the solar system, studying Earth's defenses. The main body would arrive within days. "Our fleet is mobilizing," the Admiral reported during one visit. "Every ship we've built over the past 2 centuries is being prepared for battle. We've activated defense systems across the planet." Lyra watched in amazement as humans around the world united against the coming threat. Nations that had been enemies for generations now shared resources and technology. It was a level of cooperation she hadn't expected from such a divided species. "Your people are surprising," she told Diane one evening as they took a rare break from work. The Union believed humans couldn't overcome their territorial instincts. Diane smiled tiredly. "We're still territorial and competitive, but we save that for when we're not facing extinction." The Union species evolved beyond conflict, through careful genetic engineering and social conditioning, Lyra explained. "We see violence as a developmental stage that advanced civilizations outgrow." "And how's that working out against the Void Swarm?" Diane asked. Lyra didn't answer. They both knew. The peaceful Union was falling apart, while humans were preparing to fight with everything they had. On the 10th day, alarms blared throughout the facility. Diane's communication device activated with Admiral Winter's voice. "The swarm has accelerated. Main body will reach Earth's orbit in 12 hours. "Is the weapon ready?" Sam looked up from her work, her face pale but determined. "It's as ready as it's going to be. We need to load it onto the ship now." They moved quickly, transferring the quantum destabilizer to the modified alien vessel. Technicians made final adjustments as Lyra and Sam went through the operation protocols. "The targeting system is keyed to the swarm's quantum signature," Sam explained. "Once you're inside the main body, activate the destabilizer. It will create a cascade effect, introducing true randomness into their perfectly ordered system." "You keep saying you," Lyra noted. "The ship requires 2 pilots, 1 to fly and 1 to operate the weapon." Sam nodded. "I'm going with you." "No," Diane said sharply from behind them. "That's not the plan, Sam." "It has to be me," Sam insisted. "The destabilizer needs constant adjustment during deployment. No one else understands how it works." "I'll go," Diane said. "I've trained on the flight simulator with Lyra. I can handle the ship while she operates the weapon." "You're needed here, Commander," Admiral Winters said, entering the room. "The fleet needs your leadership." "With all due respect, Admiral, I'm not letting Sam go alone with Ambassador Blackwood. This mission is too important." The Admiral studied Diane's face, then nodded slowly. "Very well, Commander. You and the Ambassador will pilot the ship. Dr. Martinez will monitor from command and guide you through the deployment." Sam started to protest, but stopped when she saw the Admiral's expression. This wasn't a debate. As final preparations were made, Lyra found a quiet moment with Diane. "Your Admiral is sending us on what your people call a suicide mission," Lyra said. "The chances of survival are minimal." Diane checked her equipment with steady hands. "I know, yet you volunteered. Why?" Diane paused, considering the question. "Because someone has to do it. Because I believe we can succeed. Because I'm not willing to wait around while others take all the risks." She looked directly at Lyra. "Why did you break quarantine to come here? You knew you might be killed on sight?" "Because it was necessary," Lyra said, understanding now. "Because someone had to do it." Diane nodded. "Exactly. That's the part of humanity your Union never understood. We're not just violent. We're willing to sacrifice everything for the right cause." Hours later, as Earth prepared for the greatest battle in its history, Lyra and Diane sat in the cockpit of the hybrid ship. Above them, the vault's massive doors opened to reveal a launch tunnel leading to the surface. "Final systems check complete," Diane reported. "Quantum destabilizer is online and stable. We're ready for launch." Admiral Winter's voice came through the communication system. "Godspeed, Commander Foster. Ambassador Blackwood. The fate of Earth and the galaxy is in your hands." The hybrid ship burst through Earth's atmosphere into a sky filled with stars and darkness. But the darkness was wrong. It moved. It consumed. The Void Swarm had arrived earlier than expected, its vast body already beginning to surround the planet. "My God," Diane whispered, staring at the view screen. The swarm blotted out stars as it spread, like living ink spilled across the cosmos. Earth's defenses were already engaged. Hundreds of ships, designs Lyra had never imagined, rose from hidden bases around the planet. Energy weapons flashed against the darkness. Nuclear missiles detonated in silent explosions that briefly illuminated the vastness of the enemy. "The fleet is drawing the swarm's attention." Admiral Winter's voice came through the communication system. "Use that distraction to reach the core. Our sensors detect a concentration of quantum activity near what used to be the moon." Lyra looked at the navigation display with horror. Where Earth's moon should have been was now a swirling mass of darkness. The swarm had already consumed it. "Sam, are you receiving our telemetry?" Diane asked. adjusting the ship's course to avoid a massive tendril of the swarm that reached toward them. "Loud and clear," Sam's voice replied. "The swarm's quantum signature is stronger than we predicted. The destabilizer will need to be recalibrated. I'm sending new parameters now." Lyra's hands moved across the weapon controls, inputting the adjustment Sam provided. The quantum destabilizer hummed with increasing power. "This will only work if we deliver it directly to the core," Lyra reminded them. "Too far away and the effect will be temporary." "I know," Diane said, her voice steady as she piloted the ship toward the heart of darkness. "Trust me." Around them, Earth's fleet engaged the swarm in desperate battle. Human tactics were unlike anything Lyra had seen in Union warfare. Where Union ships would have formed orderly patterns and attacked systematically, the humans were chaotic and unpredictable. Ships darted in seemingly random patterns, some sacrificing themselves to draw portions of the swarm away from others. They used asteroids as weapons, detonating them inside swarm concentrations. They created gravitational distortions that briefly disrupted the swarm's cohesion. None of it caused lasting damage, but the swarm was struggling to adapt to the unpredictability. It had never encountered a species that fought like this, without apparent logic or self-preservation. "The humans are buying us time," Lyra realized. "Their tactics don't make sense to the swarm because they don't make sense to anyone. They're fighting with instinct, not calculation." "That's humanity for you," Diane said with grim pride. She steered the ship through a gap created by a massive explosion, heading deeper toward the swarm's core, unpredictable to the end. As they approached the densest part of the swarm, particles began to impact their shields. The ship shuddered under the assault. "Shield integrity at 70%, Lyra reported. "The swarm is trying to break through." "We need more speed," Diane said, pushing the engines beyond their design limits. "Sam, can you give us more power to the forward shields?" "Rerouting now," Sam replied. "But it won't last long. The swarm is adapting to the shield frequency." The darkness surrounded them completely now. On the view screens they could see nothing but the shifting mass of the swarm, particles moving with disturbing intelligence and purpose. "We're approaching the core," Lyra announced. "Quantum activity is peaking. The destabilizer is ready for deployment." "Wait," Sam's voice cut in. "I'm detecting a problem. The destabilizer's containment field is fluctuating. If it fails before you reach the core, the effect will be minimal." Diane looked at Lyra. "Options?" Lyra checked the systems, thinking quickly. "We need to modify the delivery method. Instead of a controlled release, we'll have to detonate the entire system at once." "Inside the core? That would destroy the ship," Diane said. Understanding immediately? "Yes." The communication system crackled. "Ambassador, Commander, this is Admiral Winters. We're monitoring your situation. The fleet can't hold much longer. Half our ships are already lost." Diane's hands tightened on the controls. "We understand, Admiral. We'll get it done." She turned off the main communication channel and looked at Lyra. "Can you rig the destabilizer to detonate on impact?" "Yes, but we won't have time to escape the blast radius," Lyra said. "The quantum disruption will affect everything within 10,000 kilometers." Diane nodded, her face calm. "I knew this was a one-way trip the moment we launched." "Did you?" "Yes," Lyra admitted. "I think I knew from the moment I left the Union." The ship pushed deeper into the swarm's core. Around them, the particles became more dense, more aggressive. The shields flickered under the constant assault. "We need to get closer to the center of quantum activity," Lyra said, checking the sensors. "Another 2,000 kilometers." Diane adjusted their course, flying with remarkable skill through the shifting mass of the swarm. "Sam, are you still there?" "I'm here," Sam replied, her voice tight with emotion. "The destabilizer's containment is failing faster now. You have maybe 3 minutes before it goes critical." "That's all we need," Diane said. She glanced at Lyra. "I just realized something. This is exactly what your Union feared about humans. We're willing to sacrifice everything, even ourselves, without hesitation." "What the Union never understood," Lyra replied, "is that sometimes that's exactly what's needed." The ship's engines strained as they pushed toward the very center of the swarm. On the sensor display, Lyra could see they were approaching a region of intense quantum activity, the controlling consciousness of the entire swarm. 1,000 kilometers, she reported. "Shield integrity at 30%. "Not going to make it on engines alone," Diane said. She reached for a control panel Lyra didn't recognize. "Sam added something special to this ship. Hold on. She activated the system and suddenly the ship surged forward with impossible speed. The acceleration would have killed them if not for the safety fields. What is that? Lyra gasped. Something we reverse-engineered from a crashed ship 50 years ago, Diane explained through gritted teeth. We call it a gravity drive. Creates a localized distortion that pulls the ship forward. Burns out after one use. The ship hurtled toward the core, trailing particles of the swarm that couldn't react quickly enough to their sudden acceleration. We're approaching optimal position, Lyra announced. The destabilizer is reaching critical levels. We need to arm the detonation sequence, Diane nodded. Do it. Lyra's fingers flew across the controls, setting the quantum destabilizer to release its full power at once. As she worked, she felt a strange calm. She had left her home, broken her people's laws, and was about to die far from everything she knew. Yet it felt right. Detonation sequence armed, she reported. 30 seconds to critical mass. Ambassador Blackwood, Diane said formally, extending her hand. It has been an honor. Lyra took the human's hand, feeling its warmth and strength. Commander Foster, the honor has been mine. Around them, the swarm seemed to sense their intention. The assault on their shields intensified. Particles battered the ship from all directions, searching for weaknesses. 10 seconds, Lyra said. Sam, Diane spoke into the communication system. Tell Admiral Winters. Tell her we made it. I will, Sam promised, her voice breaking. The whole world is watching. What you're doing. They'll remember. The shields failed completely. Particles of the swarm began to penetrate the hull, dissolving metal and circuitry. The ship's systems flickered. 5 seconds, Lyra counted. 4, 3. Diane reached over and took Lyra's hand again. Together they watched as the destabilizer reached critical mass. 2, 1. Light erupted from the ship. Not a traditional explosion, but a wave of pure quantum disruption. It spread outward at impossible speed, touching every particle of the swarm connected through quantum entanglement. Where perfect order had existed, chaos now reigned. The carefully coordinated particles of the swarm lost their connection to the whole. The collective intelligence that guided them shattered into billions of disconnected pieces. From the command center on Earth, Admiral Winters watched as the wave of energy rippled through the swarm. The blackness that had consumed the stars began to fragment, dissolving into harmless dust. They did it, Sam whispered, staring at the readings on her screens. The quantum network is collapsing. Admiral Winters stepped forward. Launch the second wave. Hit them while they're disorganized. Earth's remaining fleet surged forward, weapons firing into the now vulnerable swarm. Without its collective intelligence, the particles couldn't adapt or coordinate their defense. They scattered before the human assault. In what remained of the hybrid ship, emergency systems struggled to maintain life support. The quantum destabilizer had burned itself out completely, taking most of the ship's systems with it. Only a small pocket of the cockpit remained intact, protected by the last dregs of shield energy. Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness. Her body was badly damaged, her life support systems failing. Beside her, Diane was barely breathing, blood trickling from a wound on her head. Through the fractured view screen, Lyra could see the stars returning as the swarm dissolved around them. They had succeeded. The weapon had worked.